Hello, hello guys. Haven't seen for ages, I guess. International Master Andrey Ostrovskiy is here. I'm back. Is it for a long time? Well, I don't know. Let's try to make it like regular again. So it's been so long time that I bet some of you think that I'm a new face here on Chess24, but well, it's not the case. If you check the history, you will find something like 400 different shows on this platform. Made by me, okay? So I'm definitely not the new face, but I still believe I'm not that old actually to lose each and every game. That's why I'm here today to play a few, I hope, interesting games against you and analyze the things. So we already have some challenges. Just as usual, let me know in chat if you can hear and see me well. And I'm going just to get to the list of challenges and pick one for the first game. And we don't have a lot, I guess. So I'll just try one by one. I'll accept the first one. Here we go. I'm playing with black pieces and that's a 3-minute game. So I have to be really careful here. And super fast, I guess. Everything is fine, says Batman. Wow. We have a Batman here. That's great. MB4. Okay. So that is what? That is Evans Gambit, right? D4. B5. Here we go. Prom Knight is here. Cool. So let's see if we can have all the old guys here. I mean, not in the sense of the age, but in the sense of the fact of following me since the beginning of the earth. Bishop to c4, that's strange. I would expect, you know, just capturing on d4 or something. Bishop to c4 is a bit strange because I can take with check now. I'm a pawn up, right? I can bring my queen to f6 in a very convenient way, offering the sort of simplification of the position. Alrighty? Because if queen f6, then knight takes f6, that's more or less the ending, and we have extra pawn for no visible compensation, I would argue. So that would be cool. Queen d1, what's the idea? Perhaps to play something like queen to d5, right? Well, we can continue with the development, I suppose. Just knight to e7, controlling d5 and preparing castling. Oh, Kravnik student is here. Okay, nice. So, bishop a3, not necessarily dangerous. We have simple d6 move, covering that diagonal. Pay attention that bishop on a5 attacks c3, so it's not so simple for white to complete the development of the queen side. Because if knight moves, they just grab that pawn, one more pawn. We have absolutely healthy pawn structure here. Well, after queen a4, of course, I should step back. This is also not a bad position for a bishop. I would say that it's even cool to have it here, exerting some pressure on f2. And now what to do? I think it's very promising just to bring the knight to f4 quickly, because white's pieces are somehow far away from the king side. So we'll bring the knight to f4. Oh, g3. This is a terrible weakening of the position, and now we can play bishop to h3. So what I wanted to do, I was about to put my knight on f4 and then probably queen to g5 or g6, forcing white to play g3, but white played g3 voluntarily, which is amazing because now what it is, it's almost a checkmate or something. What about knight to h4 move? Doesn't make any sense. Knight to f4 is also a good idea with a threat, I guess, of playing knight to e2. Knight to h4 with the threat of knight f3 and then a checkmate. We can take on f1. There are different ways, okay? I just play rook b8, okay? So Prom Knight says, hello Kramnik student, you are still strong. Is it a question to Kramnik student or is it addressed to me? I'm not sure. Anyways, I think Kramnik student is strong. I'm not that strong. So you guys have great chance to beat me this time, because I'm just regaining my form. This lockdown is a hard thing, you know. So now what to do? I think we should play f5 at some point. Let's just prepare it gradually. Okay, so I guess we should try to compensate the fact that the bishop is going away somehow. Well, at least we have improved the pawn structure a bit. And now what? No, this is a bad idea. Let's just play queen g6 and f5. Everything is according to a plan. All right. Maybe it's not needed at all, but I think, yeah, we have extra exchange. We have slightly better pawn structure. Now we have f file open. The more open files we have, the better. When we talk about the situation of the extra exchange, because rooks are efficient exactly on open files. So the more the better in this case, for sure. All right, let's step back. Oh, what is that? Oh, okay. Not sure what is that, but white is fighting, right? But it's not going to be enough. So let's bring the knight to the center. Yeah, it's a lost position. Okay. Batman says Evans Gambit is not scary anymore these days. Well, I would argue with this statement because, you know, there are some lines, of course, that are still pretty annoying for black, especially if black doesn't know the theory well. And this line that I played, I mean, this b5, is a super lazy way to play against Evans Gambit. Of course, I wouldn't probably play it in the real game, in the tournament game, I mean, because, you know, if white reacts correctly, so for example, captures the knight, exactly, then after e takes d4, queen takes d4, position is pretty much equal. So there is some lines, there is a line like this, queen f6, then maybe castling, maybe e5 or something. So black still has to work to get the equality. In my opinion, it's not that hard, I believe, but still. At the end, it's just an equal position, and equal position is not the end of the game, so it's just the beginning, right? So it's still playable. But it's a way to avoid, you know, complications in main lines when white sacrifices a lot of material for some initiative, and that initiative may be dangerous. But again, if you want to play a main line, if you want to fight for more than just inequality with black pieces against Evans Gambit, you have to learn a ton of theory. So queen f6, queen d5, asked Kramnik student. Okay, just a second. Knight takes d4. Obviously, this bishop c4, which happened in this game, is not good. If after queen f6, queen goes to d5, well, I think I can play just c6. Oh, you mean bishop takes c6, right? Okay, so bishop takes c3, the first thing that comes to my mind. Maybe I can combine it, like c6, and if you take on c6, I take on c3, right? So knight c3, queen c3, feels like I win something here. Like this. Bishop d2. I can take on a1, I can take on c6 as well, I guess. It's good enough. Queen e5, queen e6, queen takes... Well, this may be annoying, right? So probably after this move, it's better to take the rook after all. And after king e2, maybe just grab that rook. I don't know. Well, you have to analyze it a bit better, I guess. But queen d5 is definitely not dangerous here at this very moment. Okay, so bishop to c4 is definitely nothing, because after that, as I said, during the game, there's nothing wrong with black's position, right? Normally in Evans Gambits, you want some initiative for missing material. Here you are a pawn down, and there is no significant advantage in development even. I mean, look at this position. It's pretty, you know, descriptive. So we both have the bishop and the queen developed, right? Where's your advantage? Where's your initiative? It's nowhere. So black is just better for nothing. All right, thanks for the game. The next one, Mihi27. Accept. 5 minutes and still black pieces. Okay. So here we will have a bit more time to explain the things. Of course, if there will be the necessity of explaining the things. All right, I usually play knight to c6. Let's try Philidor in this case. Let's try Philidor. Bishop to c4. When I was a kid, it was considered that bishop e6 should be played against bishop to c4 in this case. There are different ways to react, of course, but I will play bishop e7. I still want white to go for d4 at some point so that we get the Antoshan system. Not that it is a very pleasant thing for black to play, but it's just interesting and playable thing. Again, when I was a kid, I was really wondering why the hell black plays Philidor when it makes the bishop so bad, so passive compared just to normal openings, right? Well, there's the thing. This bishop is really passive, but not for a long time. So there is usually a way to improve it with the help of maneuver like rook e8, bishop f8, and then g6 and bishop g7. What black gets is the position, which is very solid. Yeah, slightly passive, no questions, but very solid anyway. And there is a possibility to exert some pressure on e4. But to play this system efficiently, of course, you need a specific mindset. So the idea here is not to counterattack or something, which you usually do in Sicilian, and you do this on the move 1, right? Here you're just waiting a lot. You just improve your pieces slightly, you know, inch by inch. And the whole philosophy here is just to provoke white to do something pseudo-active, but weakening, something critical, and then just punish white for it. That's the idea behind this opening. It's really like waiting. A good example could be a hedgehog system, for example. Same philosophy. So you're just maneuvering somewhere in your camp, and then, well, white is going crazy, active, pseudo-active, weakens something, and here you go. You just exploit that weakness. Okay, so it doesn't feel like white developed the pieces in the ideal way. First of all, I can grab the bishop already, and I will have pair of bishops. Is it a big advantage here? Well, I think it still matters, at least. What else I can do? I can play bishop g4, but then queen goes to g3, and I just don't see follow-up, because if we take on e4 twice, then bishop on g4 drops. So I would just take that bishop, actually. It's a very important piece, in my opinion. And now, a typical maneuver, again, is something like knight g4. I'm trying to bring my knight to e5. And again, I'm just freeing some space for my bishop, right? Because that's a long-term problem, and it's a long-term plan, so to say, to improve that bishop finally, somehow. All right, since I have a pair of bishops, can I dare for more and play something like f5? It looks very promising now, honestly, and I'll do it, really. I think it's exactly what black should try here, to open up a position, to bring the bishops to active positions and just, you know, attack somehow. Since white is not controlling the center, white is not doing anything specific here, why not to try that? And this gives me this possibility, since my knight is protected by the bishop from c8. I can play f4, grabbing space. Wow, I start loving my position. This is no longer just a slightly better one, I guess. It's already very good. Now, of course, the first idea that comes to my mind is just to play f3, right? So we're getting closer and closer, grabbing more and more space. Look how active black became. It was just a matter of a few moves to get this position from the one which looked very passive. Of course, with the help of my opponent, but still. There is always a potential like this, I mean, in Philidor. Okay, let's just take there. I expected something like g3 to keep the position closed. But my opponent is probably not feeling the danger here. It's already quite dangerous, I would say. So I need a queen closer to king, right? So let's just play queen e8. There is a comment, Anand is probably the only player to use knights effectively. Oh, that's probably true if we talk about the Anand. I think he's one of the players who uses all the pieces very good. But I believe that there are many players who play with knights in a very good way. For example, it's a typical thing for Armenian players. I don't know why, but well, many guys from Armenia are quite skillful in playing with knights, starting from the Tigran Petrosian, for example. The world champion. I mean, not the contemporary Tigran Petrosian, the one who managed to beat Botvinnik and became a world champion. Okay, so I like my position, as I said before. We have pair of bishops. Position is not that close anymore, which is great news for bishops. And the king is quite... white's king is quite bad now, in my opinion. So we can somehow use it, I believe. Knight e5 comes to my mind, knight f6 with the idea of relocation through h5 to f4 or something. There's also an idea here, I believe. What else? Queen to h5. Yeah, queen to h5 is also an option. I don't know why I played queen f7. Maybe immediate queen h5 was a better move. I just didn't consider it for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm in the best shape, right? That's true. Yeah, queen h5 is much more logical place. I think I wanted to protect the g7 somehow. Okay, here we can play knight e5. That's what I wanted to try here. Knight to e5. If white doesn't take, then I wanted to play knight g6 followed by knight h4 and knight f4. Now pay attention. We have improved our pawn structure a bit. So we had a slightly bad pawn on d6. Now it's on e5. It may look even more vulnerable than on d6. But we control f4, so we kind of created an outpost here. Well, we no longer have the knight to occupy that square, but it can be used by other pieces as well. And what I like about my pawn on e5 is that it controls d4, which means the knight cannot go to d4 and get back to active positions easily. Well, there is d2, of course, but still don't believe it's a good square. Now what? Rook f6, rook g6, something like that, right? Because why not? We can. d8 is controlled. Yes, our rook is not in the game yet, but it's a question of two moves, I think. Bishop somewhere, then rook to f8, and we're good. For now, though, I have created rook g6 threat, which may be already quite annoying. But now, you know, I think that maybe we should have done this bishop move and then rook to f8. But we will see. Maybe we'll do this with a tempo. So say now where to go with the queen. If queen goes to f3, there is bishop g4, right? A tempo move, using the fact that h3 is pinned. And now we get our rook to the game with the tempo, as I said. Bishop e2 looks also good here. Like, you know, winning some material, I guess. This way. But there shouldn't be enough, I believe. Shouldn't be enough. Bishop to g5 I wanted to play. To bring the bishop to that outpost I mentioned before. Okay, now what? g6, right? It's possible to play, I think. Yeah, because there is no knight h6 because bishop controls that. There is knight e5 though, but there is something like queen e6 or something. I don't know. That should be a good position for black. So all the pieces are in the game now, and I won on time, but it's also an absolutely winning position. All right, there were a bunch of comments there. So Azure joined. Okay. Is Andrey an international master? Asks evidence. Yes, it's evident here. Yeah, international master. I'm not sure if you see that, but there is this label. And no one is going to take this title from me, right? Unless I become a grandmaster. It will be changed, but international master stays there, I think, forever. Unless you're caught on cheating. There are some cases when the title can be taken away. But if you know me, you know that I'm not cheating whatsoever. Never. It's just so stupid. All right. What white did wrong? In my opinion, first, bishop b3 was not needed. In such a position, you may even want black to play this b5 before, because again, it's one of the things that looks active, but it may well be a pseudo-active thing, just weakening something. So I've seen many players doing something like rook e1 here, and after b5, there is bishop to f1. So with the help of rook e1, you have protected the pawn on e4. So now b4 is not winning anything, right? Yeah, it kicks your knight away from the center. But look, even after that, it may look super stupid at very first glance. Like you play bishop f1, then knight to b1. What's going on? But look at the queen side now. So this b4 is too advanced. It's not supported whatsoever. So it can be undermined at some point, leading to a very good pawn structure for black. It may be attacked. The c6 is constantly a problem now. Well, you can play c5, but then you weaken d5. So it's a question how to continue the development, right? So something like bishop b7 here, preparing the development of the knight, won't be that great because of that square. So that is the thing that black has to control always in Philidor. So, I mean, not necessarily this line, but something like that may have been very interesting for you to try. So bishop to b3 is not bad at all, I guess. And even this is fine. But if knight to a6, you should have been already you know, aware of the thing that may happen after knight to c5 if e4 is not protected. So what I would have tried here, I would have either came back to c4, which looks like a waste of time, maybe played bishop to a2, maybe just protected e4 or something like this, rook e1, and after knight to c5 you just step back with the bishop. So you keep the bishop on the board, right? So that's the idea, okay? Let's continue. So I think I've got a pretty good position after I grabbed your bishop. Next one, Patrick Moose. Accept. Sorry if I mispronounced your nickname. I'm just very bad at it. c4. Okay, now we have something close, but still I'm playing with black pieces. What the hell is going on? The third game in a row. Nimzo-Indian, bishop to b4. Bishop d2. Okay, this is pretty popular nowadays. It looks a bit strange, but it has a very simple idea behind. Just to play a3, and after bishop takes c3, bishop takes there. Okay, let's see. Okay, e3. I think we will have some sort of transposition to one of the Rubinstein lines, right? Let's try to get there. So the idea behind Nimzo-Indian defense is that we're not occupying the center with pawns. We will rather control the central squares with pieces. And we keep all the possibilities of playing in the center open, which means we can actually get different types of pawn structures in the future. That's pretty much the idea behind the hypermodern approach to development, hypermodern approach to the center, which was popularized and introduced by a bunch of great players of the past, including Nimzovich himself, Riccardo Reti, so on and so forth. Yefim Bogolubov, I believe, was also a hypermodernist to some extent. Well, after all, almost everyone became a hypermodernist, so that it's no longer a modern, needless to say, hyper-modern approach. It's just a standard approach. But back then it was something, wow, what's going on? Like the guys are just ignoring the center, ignoring the principles. Well, that's fine. As long as you control the center, no matter how, you don't have to occupy it, right? The main idea is just to control the things. Knight h8, that is looking strange to me. I mean, f2 is definitely neglected here. Should I just play queen h4, directly attacking it? But then g3, I can come back to f6. I mean, this may become a problem for white, right? Let's just go there. Why haven't you done a show for so long, Andrey? Well, first of all, I had a vacation, okay? Yeah, but before the vacation, there were also some sort of breaks. Basically, the long story short, I'm still in the process of finding the work-life balance. Since I've been working as a web developer for like more than a year now. And, you know, chess was always my life, right? There were times when chess was also my work. It's no longer. So now I'm just trying to make it a part of my life again, just, you know, competing with other things that you have to do in your life. I have a family, I have kids after all, so there are things I have to do. So there was a period of time where it was really critical. I mean, every time I wanted to make a show, it was always like a big problem from a family perspective, I would say. So yeah, I'm in the process of finding, you know, a right schedule, right balance. So I think for now I will be really happy if I can make a one show per week, but consistently, like regularly again. So the task number one is just to make it regular again. And then we'll see, maybe we'll come back to 2 shows per week. We'll see. I just don't know right now. So that's basically the idea. Okay. I hope I answered the question. So now we have a better pawn structure, I guess, than our opponent, because this f takes g3 is ugly. And my opponent decides to exchange... Oh, stop. Wait a second. If we take the bishop, there is g takes f3. That improves the pawn structure. I underestimated this moment. So probably we should make some ugly things here just for sake of keeping the better pawn structure. So like rook a to b8, if bishop b7, then rook b7. Yeah, rook is stupid there. I have to just spend at least one move to improve it again. But I think it's worth doing because the pawn structure is paramount here. The pawn structure is something that will stay, whilst this position of the rook is just a temporary thing that is easily fixable, right? Another question, have you stopped or reduced chess coaching? I reduced it. I would say I haven't stopped it. So there's still some students, but I severely reduced it for sure. All right, 94 will not go away from us. So I guess now it's time to shape the pawn structure the way we want. So let's play c5. As you can see, we have developed our pieces. We achieved something in the sense of static things. So this pawn structure is something that will be there for a long time. Now it's time to dare for more. So c5 is an attempt to grab some space. If white captures on c5, I will probably take with the b pawn, making my rook active here on b7. And if that happens, position of the rook on b7 is no longer that stupid, right? So it looks pretty logical even. Another target in such a situation is a c4 thing. So we can theoretically just play a rook to c7 next move with the idea of taking on d4 and taking on c4. Probably forcing white to play b3, which will weaken the position, and we may consider something like b5. Position will quickly become very interesting to play, I guess. Let's try it, actually. So, rook to c7 with the pressure on c4. Oh, Foxy is here as well. Good to have you back, Andrey. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your support. Now, cd4 looks pretty promising, right? Because c4 doesn't seem to be protected. And why not to grab it then? Like, everything looks solid here. Everything is under control, I believe. Azur asks, web development is tough, Andrey. Are you freelancing? No, I'm not freelancing. I have just a daily job. I'm hired by one of the German agencies. I mean, digital agencies. And it's literally just, you know, normal life. Like, every day I wake up and go to work. Well, not every day. Now it's a corona time, so we have like 50% of time at home office, so to say. But yeah, it's just a regular job sort of thing. Rook takes d4 is possible now. Should we take that pawn? I guess why not? Using the penal on the c file, right? Rook e4, it won't work. Just take with the rook. Okay. So, extra exchange and 2 extra pawns, right? Should be pretty good result. Let's control a bit more with queen d7. It just looks harmonious now. And now let's relocate the rook. It's not very active here on the c file, so I think d file will be a better choice. g7 is protected, so there is no checkmate whatsoever. And now, can we improve the position even more? Yeah, I think rook d1 looks pretty good. And now let's bring the queen closer. Queen c6 now. Bishop to d2. Queen to c2 looks good. And rook to d2 wins the game. Wins the game. Oh, okay. Okay. Check and mate. On g4. As Hermes says, I wandered into the HTML CSS3 JavaScript I liked it. So you're sort of front-end developer, right? You're a front-end developer. That's nice. Yeah, so what happened in this game? I mean, White's way of developing pieces was pretty strange right from the beginning. So bishop d2 is a nice thing nowadays. Castling, e3 was the first thing I was not really agree with. I would rather try, you know, to control e4 here. Because, you know, if you play something like a3 here, the idea was just to take there and to play knight to e4. So yes, I exchanged the bishop for the knight, but I immediately take it back, right? Just knight e4. And then, you know, I can damage your pawn structure. I can do various things, but you don't have the pair of bishops development, which is a great thing long term here. So I would have tried maybe again, something like queen c2, which is already a mix of you know, classic system with this bishop d2 stuff, or maybe even something more ridiculously looking like f3 preparing e4, which is again a mix of bishop d2 and Zamesh system. Compared to Zamesh, though, there is no problem with the pawn structure, because whenever I take the knight, you take with the bishop. Of course, this way you no longer control d4, and maybe the logical way for black to play against this is to do something like c5. But again, you can try a3, and if bishop takes, then you take with the bishop. You control e4. I don't have knight e4 anymore, and you can play e4 yourself later. So I think it's pretty interesting. And if I don't do something like c5, then you can play e3 without a problem. And after bishop c3, I don't have knight e4 anymore. So you have just pair of bishops, pretty solid position in the center. and good perspectives, in my opinion. So there is an interest in chat now about the web development. So Fuchsia says, but if you have to deal with clients who are changing their mind every day and don't deliver what's needed on time, 3 dots. Yes, that is the pain in the ass. That is the hardest thing to handle in this industry. I guess, it's probably not that hard to learn how to program. Especially for a chess player, I guess, because I noticed that a lot of skills are pretty much useful in programming as well. Pretty much, I guess, in any industry where some logical thinking is involved. So it's not hard, but then it's hard to get your actual job, and then it's hard to actually deal with the challenges of another sort. So not necessarily, programming challenges, which is also, quite interesting thing to discuss, because that may be pretty challenging at times. Depends on your level, of course, and the level of the task, and the way the process is organized in your company. So how well it is organized. But yeah, there are things that you can't control, and sometimes it may be very depressing, much more depressing than losing a game of chess, for example. Okay, so. But again, I think this is something that comes with the experience. So I've been working for just 1 year, right? So I'm just a complete noob, I would say, in this case, compared to my chess experience, which counts now for like 26 years. All right. So I was born. I had a nice time until I turned 5, and then I was a chess player. So let's go. Let's go further. But one more thing about this game. Yeah, so what was also very wrong. So after b6, you can still get back to just normal by playing bishop d3, bishop b7, and knight f3. There was exactly that transposition to one of the lines of Rubinstein's system I mentioned in the game. And it's absolutely fine for both sides. Whilst this is also okay, but after knight to e4, I guess you already have to do something with this knight. So something like queen to c2 deserved attention. Bishop to d2 looked very weird to me. It's just a waste of time for sure, because you don't do anything to keep your bishop on the board, right? You just change the position from c3 to d2, which is not better than c3. I can still take that bishop, so it's a clear waste of time in my opinion. I understand that probably the idea was to avoid the damage of the pawn structure, but as I said, you could have played queen c2, combining the defense against knight c3, bc3, because now you can take with the queen with a useful active move, right? So at least you control the center and stuff. So bishop d2 was the first move I didn't like at all, and then the next was this knight to e2. I guess it's just not how you should develop your pieces here, because you don't do anything against my knight on e4, and here is the result: just queen to h4, attacking f2. You no longer have a satisfactory defense, except for this knight to g3, because after g3, I can play queen f6. Now you have f2 hanging, and there is also a threat of knight takes d2 and bishop takes h1. It's just lost immediately, I believe. So knight to g3 is forced, and after knight to g3, I just take there, and I damage your pawn structure, okay? So let's continue. Batman. Oh, here we go. 3 minutes, and I have to focus. And that's the first game with white pieces this time. Amazing. I have to give it my best shot. Kidding, guys. So bishop b5, Ruy Lopez, and especially for Fuchsia, bishop takes c6. Yes, I know it was very mean. I know you hate it, but I had to play it. And my opponent is playing pretty in a very confident way, so I suppose my opponent knows what to do. Reaction from Fuchsia. Yeah, I knew that. I knew that you would react in this way. What to do now? So we have a slightly better pawn structure. My opponent has pair of bishops and pretty simple development here. So there are different ways to play it, I guess. I'm always wondering how to actually deal with these pieces here, because, you know, there is obviously an object of attack here on e5. This pawn should be attacked, but there is some problem with this knight there. So whenever my knight from d2 goes away somewhere, there is a problem with that knight because it can be captured. And the pawn structure may be damaged. Okay, b5 stops me from playing knight to c4. Well, smart. Smart move, I guess. Yeah, let's try to do something with that bishop. It's really irritating guy here. Maybe this may work. So I want to bring my knight to f5. And yeah, I want to gradually bring my pieces to better squares. Bishop f7, a2. Well, it's probably not hanging. It's probably not hanging, so we have time for knight f5, I guess. That's an interesting development. That's an interesting development. I wanted to play rook to c3, but it doesn't work. I see it bishop b4, so maybe a3 should be played, protecting the pawn at the same time creating this threat. Is it a threat even? I have no idea. Let's try it. It looks promising. So the bishop goes away, we can take the pawn on c6, right? Knight f5 protects the bishop on g3. But it's risky, I know. If rook takes c6, the rook is oddly placed there. And if g6, then we may lose a bishop there. But for now, I think there is knight to e3 in the worst case. So I think we're still good. We're still fine here. But this may be our first loss here in this game. Okay, takes. Takes there. Aha, that is something I missed. That is something I missed. I have to sacrifice the exchange, I guess. And go away with the knight. So we have 2 pawns for the exchange, right? Maybe not enough. Maybe not enough, simply. But I think it's fine. We're still in the game. We're still in the game. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I could have played it much better than I did. And I have only 28 seconds. Yeah, I'm going to lose this game. I'm going to lose this game, I believe. That's really a thing happening. That is really a thing happening here. I'm losing my best friend. Okay, e4 is protected by the knight, so it's time to activate the rook. At least to try some activation. Alright, alright. So what's the plan here? We may try something like h5 to create 2 connected passers. That would be probably the most promising thing to do. And the 6th rank is here quite interesting to occupy. So I'm going to play rook d6 if my opponent gives me a chance to do that. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Now we're getting there. Okay, back. And now we are ready to push our pawns. Okay, let's take that one. Was all unnecessary crap. Yeah. Oh, what am I doing, huh? I'm losing. I'm losing it. No, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. Ah, lost on time. I deserved it. I deserved it. As Prom Knight says, faster, too slow. Okay, so actually, I played it badly, really. So as I expected, this rook to c6 was really strange. Okay, so this g6 was a great idea. So that is what I missed here. That after knight to f7, knight to g3 can be played. So I thought, okay, knight to f7 will be captured. I will have time to go away with the bishop or go away with the king, so I'll be fine. But knight takes g3 caught me, and I thought, oh shit, what to do? So rook to b6 is literally the only move here, because if you go away with the knight, there's bishop takes f2, and then just bishop takes e1. Very bad position. Probably lost already. So rook b6 was a right practical decision. And then I went away with the knight, having the better pawn structure, but being the exchange down. And I think I played pretty well here, but that was slow, right? So I managed to squeeze maximum from this position, just maximum. So this position is already quite good for white, I believe. So it's no longer about black fighting for a win, it's black fighting for a draw, for sure. Because black's rooks are not efficient here. Yeah, there are plenty of open files, but there is nothing to attack on those files. That's the problem. On the other hand, my pieces are well coordinated here, and I have a concrete plan of just, you know, what I miss here with knight to e6, winning just on the spot, right? But I was already in a severe time trouble. We both were, but I had like 20 seconds or something. Yeah, so here knight e6 wins the game, right? That was a blunder. But even without that blunder, I mean, I have this plan, h5, and then, you know, would I, you know, have a bit more time, I would definitely find a way to coordinate my pieces to bring those pawns to promotion squares. But what I did, I just blundered everything there. Pathetic, but interesting. Thanks a lot for this experience. My Goring is the next. Let's play. Black pieces again. The fourth game in a row. No, not in a row, but the fourth game today, right, with black pieces. Holy moly, let's play something funny. Or at least let's try. Because I'm really fed up with this e5 stuff. It's Blitz after all, right? Although the primary goal is to learn something here. But it's Blitz, come on. We should be willing to experiment a bit more. Here we go. Let's jump to d4. I know it may backfire, most likely it will. Especially if I take with the pawn there, but maybe I will just take with the bishop, why not? If white captures my knight. Yeah, cd4 is probably a move, but it's quite risky. On the other hand, what am I really risking? So cd4, knight goes to d2, then maybe to f3. Well, d4 will be constantly under attack. Yeah, it's annoying, so let's take with the bishop. Sometimes you may sacrifice a pawn like that on d4 just to make your bishop great, but my bishop is already not that bad, right? Diagonal is open. Usually, again, this idea works fine if you grab the bishop, so you have pair of bishops. But here, white's dark square bishop is still on the board, so cd4, sacrificing that pawn at some point would be just very risky, in my opinion. Now what? Just d6. Yeah, because I'm not sure I want to play knight f6. I'm also not sure I want to go away with the bishop that easily. Because maybe I want to play something like that, right? Andrey pronounces the I of Blitz really lonely. So I should say Blitz, like this. or what? Now, of course, I shouldn't say Blitz, because it will be just a wrong pronunciation. Blitz. Like that, right? That is just not my style. Oh, knight b5 was a nice move, by the way. Knight b5 was a nice move. Let's keep the bishop on the board. There is also knight e2. God damn it, this position is not good. It's just not good at all. So we need some space for our pieces quickly. Especially for my bishop, because I want to keep my bishop on the board. Whatever it takes. And the problem with what I did was that my bishop was limited. So white could have played knight to b5 instead of bishop to d3. And if my bishop goes to e5 in that case, there is a f4 trap in it. And if it doesn't, then just knight e4, queen d4, just absolutely winning position. So I was about to be screwed. But somehow, you know, my opponent didn't do that. And here comes bishop to e3. Very interesting choice now. So I definitely want to take it, but in that case, f5 will be open and I will potentially have some problems with castling. So maybe I should just play bishop to e5 here for now. Going away. And Eagle has suggested bishop to e3 right before my opponent played it. Okay, now what? Just castling, right? It's long overdue. Would be nice to have some crazy attack like e6, d takes e6, then knight takes h2, king h2, queen h4 check using the fact that g3 is pinned, but then king g2 and that's it. End of the story. It doesn't work. The question, long castling wouldn't be better? Well, it takes time actually, and white can easily start the attack there with b4. Just one move before, and your position is automatically risky there, I guess. But that's just my feeling. I'm not sure. You need to calculate it much better than I did. Oh, what? Look at that pawn. That was a very important one, my friend. Now black is winning, I guess. So I expected queen takes e3 when I wanted to play queen to d7, still with unclear position, but I believe white would have been long-term better because of the pawn structure, because, you know, this pawn on e7 is very bad. e6 is weak and so on and so forth. So there are many factors that say that, oh, black's position is not so good. What am I doing? I'm just losing my bishop on g3. Come on, guys, I have to focus, really. I'm just thinking of bullshit. Knight takes g3 was possible. Oh my god. It's just the worst game, I think. The worst game ever. So pathetic. Just knight e4, simply attacking the bishop, right? And I was thinking about knight g5 followed by knight e6, but the bishop is hanging there, man. The bishop is there. Who cares about that e6 square if you have a hanging bishop there? Oh my god. It tells you everything about my current shape, right? And about the consequences of the lockdown on my practical strength. I'm just very bad at chess now. That's the fact. Okay, now I have extra material, but how to convert it the right way? So for now there are no threats, so maybe we should play a6 and b5. Fuchsia says high quality chess. Yes, high quality chess. It is. Oh my god. So pathetic. All right. Let's just play b4. We have a bishop here after all on e5. It's important not to lose it now somehow. For example, after queen e4 and knight takes c5, we can easily blunder it. Easily. Now I know it because knight could have captured my bishop on g3. But strategically what I'm trying to do here is just to play a5, a4, ab3, and then look, it's a typical thing, right? Bishop controls a1 square, which means I win the fight for the a file automatically, and then can just transfer my heavy pieces one by one using that file. So rook a2, then lift, queen a2, lift, so on. That's how it's done normally. Right, I wanted to take with the pawn in this case, just improving the pawn structure, having everything solid here, and just continuing with my plan. So the question, why don't work bishop takes b2? Well, because it's just a pawn, right? After I blundered knight takes g3, I'm no longer concerned by just mere pawns somewhere. Queen to c2, a4. Let us continue with the plan. It's pretty simple, easy to implement. Queen f2, so still no threats, I guess. So takes. And the first real target, I guess. Rook a3 attacking the pawn. Now queen to a7, creating a threat of rook to a2. So we're close to invasion here. And my opponent blundered it, so wins. Wins the game. Yeah, hard to comment it. But there was a critical moment where I was really bad at the beginning when Prom Knight came up with this Blitz stuff. So after bishop takes f5 and castling and knight to f6, I made a serious mistake just limiting my bishop myself. So now there is no space for my bishop, and you could have used it with knight to b5 move, just attacking it, and it's really a bad position for black immediately, because after bishop to e5, as I said before, there is f4, and I have nothing better than just come back to d4 and lose a pawn disgracefully. So yeah, just lost position instantly. Okay, that was the idea. That was the best way for you to play here, I think. And then a bit later, of course, after I blundered the bishop, you should have captured it, actually. So yeah, black has some tricks here, so 2 pawns after all. But I think it's just nothing. You just play e4 and that's it. You're just a minor piece up, right? Okay. So next challenge is Anna. Accept. Yeah, guys, I hope you're still there. I hope you're still there after this pathetic game, and you still believe that I can come back with something more interesting than that. So what I never played against Anna is something like this. So let's do it. So, Benoni, modern Benoni stuff. Okay. I have no idea how to play here exactly against this setup, so I'm more or less aware of what to do if white develops his pieces like knight f3, g3, bishop g2, because sometimes you have a transposition from a, let's say, Queen's Indian defense, some of the lines. There are some possibilities to get this pawn structure. But here will be a tough thing for me. A tough thing. So, first of all, let's play a6, intending to play b5. Now, knight to d7. The golden rule, I've said it like many times, for black is to try to exchange at least one pair of minor pieces here. That's the idea. If that happens, then black has no problems with the coordination, normally. The question is how to do that, how to achieve that. It's usually a problem. So I'm waiting for white's knight to c4 move at some point, because I do want to challenge that knight immediately with knight to e5 or b5 takes, knight takes b6, exactly exchanging one pair of minor pieces. So now it's like a dancing around this strategic idea. So white wants to keep all 4 pieces on the board, black wants to exchange at least one pair of minor pieces. The reason why, because white has advantage in space. So for black, it's harder to coordinate the pieces than for white. And the more pieces we exchange, the easier it becomes to find good squares for all of the remaining pieces on the board. Okay, now queen to c2. There is no longer this control over e2 square that much, so maybe some tactics with knight takes d5 is possible, but not now. Not right now, at least. So what if we play b5, a takes b6, rook takes b6, protecting a6, and then after knight to c4, just rook back to b8, then bishop f4, immediately attacking our d6 pawn. Looks annoying. Looks annoying. Alright. What if we play knight e5, provoking white to play f4 with the pawn? I think this may be an interesting idea. Because white is still not ready, in my opinion, for playing something rapid like f4, e5. Which means knight on e5 is okay, right? So the question, it's better to exchange knights or bishops for black. Well, it doesn't matter, usually. Of course, you want to keep your dark squid bishop. That's the key piece in Benoni structures. But it doesn't matter if you exchange knights or you exchange your light squid bishop. Both are absolutely valid. And it doesn't even matter if you exchange your bishop for the knight. It's also okay. All right, now, I think rook to b4 is a correct square to occupy here. Do we have some tactics already? I don't think so. Maybe we can play knight b6. I don't know. Let's try it. Looks pretty interesting. And I have 38 seconds, but we play with increment, right? And anyway, it's already a, pretty dangerous situation. So the point is, after f4, e4 is not so simple to protect, right? When you have a pawn on f2, you always can play f3. But once the pawn is on f4, it's no longer the case. And now I'm just attacking e4 thrice, right? And my position looks pretty decent here. I have some pressure on b2 as well, so it's not so simple for white to develop the dark squid bishop if it's necessary or not. It's another question, but still. Looks good. Looks good. Let's see what we can do if white just plays bishop to f3. I believe that's the move, right? There are some tactical motives like taking on e4, then bishop f5, pinning that, but I don't think it works. Not now for sure. Oh, this way. This makes a position quite sharp. Okay, let's see, what's the idea behind it? Just bishop f4, so what? Rook takes b2 is an option. Maybe it was too greedy. Maybe it was too greedy. But all in all, I think we're fine, right? Yeah, I guess we're good here. So now we have two minor pieces for the rook. A couple of pawns, probably two pawns. I can take this one. Question, was it necessary for me to take that one, right? Just bishop f5 to make sure that f5 is closed. If rook f5, I have queen b1 check and queen takes back f5. That also looks good. So this way we avoid damaging on pawn structure, right? So now we have extra minor piece, and it's absolutely winning for black, of course. That's it. Game over. So, you know, some maneuver, and then tactics, and voila, we're here. So, what went wrong? I think f4, after all, was not that great. The idea. Maybe the whole... I have no idea how this is usually played. But I believe that, anyway, putting the knight on c4 at some point, even though the knights are being exchanged in many cases, is a valid option. Moreover, a typical thing here is to put the knight on c4 and after knight to e5 to step back to a3. And then you gradually prepare like f4, and now the knight gets back to c4, right? So I just don't feel like a3 is a good square for the rook. But again, I'm not an expert in Benoni. So everything I know is some ideas for black, mainly in g3, bishop g2 type of thing. Some things are, of course, universal for different setups here. Doesn't matter if your bishop is on e2 or g2. Who cares? So you'd better navigate the database and check it for yourself. Okay. So there was one critical moment, though, at the end I wanted to look at. So after bishop to f4, almost automatically captured here. So the idea being, if queen takes b2, bishop takes e5, there's queen takes a3, black wins. But what if queen goes to d3? Because there is this threat of knight to a4, right? Then I noticed that, well, I can play this move, right? But there is a6 hanging, and I was not sure. I mean, probably it's still fine for black, even if black sacrifices the exchange like this, and then plays something like bishop f5, right? But even here, I think queen a6 is possible, right? So takes there. No, e8 is controlled, so maybe it's not so good after all. Something like knight e8 or rook e8, yeah. I think it's okay for black, even more than okay. Yeah, rook e2, knight e2, bishop f5, then maybe queen 2, somewhere, I don't know, c4, I guess. No, I don't know. This is a crazy position, like a5 is possible. So I think black definitely has some compensation. Maybe I missed something. I have no idea. But that was interesting. So something like queen to d3, maybe. I have no idea. Chess is too complicated. So the next one is Bondel-Kremer. Accept. Black pieces, come on. I've played only one game with white pieces and I lost it, right? I want white pieces again to win. So to balance my score with white pieces, come on. The algorithm, give me white pieces, please. Please. Aha. Some colle sort of thingy, right? That's gonna happen here. London system, after all. Huh? Knight to a3. It's a tricky line or something. I've never seen this before. Queen takes b2, knight b5, a6, knight c7, king d8, knight takes there, queen takes c3. I think I've seen something like this. It's too complicated for me, so I'll just play a6. I'm too lazy to calculate all that. Fuchs says, yeah, c3 kind of ruins it. Okay, so I think we should make some sort of, banter special for Fuchsia, when I will play just active openings, no bullcrap like exchange to Lopez or this c3 sort of thing. So just active openings, because I believe Fuchsia deserves a special Banter Blitz. Taking into account the contribution of Fuchsia to chess 24 in so many different ways. So, we'll see. Maybe next week I'll dedicate the Banter Blitz to Fuchsia. Only active openings. Knight on a3 looks strange, right? Ponciani, King's Gambit, and so. Oh no, no, no. Why did I even offer it? Now I have to learn all bad openings. God damn it. I have a feeling that white went c4, not actually counting the attacks on d4. I have a strange feeling that we're winning some material now. So, what to do? If c takes d5, then knight takes d5. There is no problem with the pawn structure whatsoever, I guess. The only concern is probably that knight to c4 jump. But is it really that dangerous? No, I don't think so. Let's take with the knight. You made some videos about the King's Gambit, you should know that. Well, yes, but anyway, the one thing is to make a video about the King's Gambit, another thing is to play King's Gambit, and I usually play King's Gambit with black's pieces, so I play against the King's Gambit, but in that Banter special, I would be forced to play it with white, so it's a different sort of experience. It's not that I can't do it, I still can play it, but no. It will be hard, it will be challenging, but well, I was the first to suggest it, so now I am obliged to learn all the stuff. Knight to e5. What's happening here? What is happening here? Let's take that bishop. My desire is now just to make the position as simple as possible. For that, I probably need to castle as soon as possible. Because we want a pawn, right? From a practical point of view, you just have to simplify the stuff and enjoy the conversion stage. Rook to d1. Okay. Is there an immediate threat to d4 pawn? No, I don't think so. So let's keep on bring the pieces to good positions. Queen to h5. What's the threat? Don't see any. Probably rook d3, rook h3 is the idea here. Right? Right. What should we do? We should definitely weaken our position with the g6 move. Just kidding. The idea is to bring the bishop to g7. So, for example, queen h6, bishop f6, then bishop g7. And once you have a bishop on g7, you usually feel very comfortable. You usually feel very comfortable, especially if your opponent doesn't have a dark square bishop to exchange it. So it's a typical Dragon's thing, or any literally dark squared Fianchetto thing. This bishop is a great defender. Sometimes even if your opponent breaks through the h-file, it's only one check after all on h7, and if your king goes to f8, well, you're fine. There is no checkmate, I mean. There is no checkmate. Okay, I think it's time to be more aggressive. But which way? First, I suppose... No. It's not exactly what I want. So I wanted to play knight b4, then b5. Because if we play b5 immediately, there is knight takes c6, rook c6, knight e5. Also fine for black, actually. Yeah, so maybe we should play exactly this way. Let's do it. King's Gambit is incorrect anyway, says Prom Knight. In which way it is incorrect? There are some analysis. Oh, I know that crazy story. There was an analysis of one guy with computers like back in 2005 or something. You know, he was analyzing the shit with all of his computers at home and somehow made some conclusions. Is that or not? The Ostrovskiy Gambit offering to play exciting openings. Oh god. God damn it, that's true. Now f5 and e4. E4, right? It's just over for white. Matthias Valls has analyzed the refutation of the King's Gambit. With all due respect to Matthias Valls, but who knows? I was away for a long time. Maybe the things has changed dramatically. I don't know. Maybe King's Gambit is no longer a valid opening. Everything is possible nowadays. Right, what's happening here? We have a lot of extra material here, like the rook and the pawn. So, like 6 pawns in total. That's too much. Let's bring all of them there. Like bishop b6, rook f2, rook takes f4, rook back to f2, rook takes h2. It's lost, right? The question from Patrick. Thank you for the first Banter Blitz after a long time. Well, you're welcome. When will you do the next Banter? I hope that in 1 week or something. So again, maybe Saturday. As I said before, the idea now is just to get some sort of regular schedule with at least 1 show per week. And most likely it will be next Saturday. Most likely. I'm not sure yet. Okay, so let's continue. We still have some time. And there is eagle, except... Oh, that was not eagle. What happened? It just jumped somehow and I mistakenly accepted another challenge. But okay, I must lose to this bogus. As my opponent, on the positive note, I'm playing with white pieces here. So a normal continuation would be castling short, but castling long, sorry, with the Velimirovich attack, I guess. But this way is also interesting to play. So it's now like Sozin, Fischer-Sozin mix with this positional inclusion of a4, so avoiding all this unnecessary complications with b5 stuff. But the idea remains the same. So the major idea of Fischer-Sozin stuff is just to open up a2 GA diagonal for the bishop and to weaken light squares. So the idea is to play f4, f5, potentially forcing black to play e5 and then occupy d5 and win. That's the plan, in short. Rook to d8. Let's go. So Eagle says, don't know what's wrong. Nothing is wrong. So I was about to actually accept your challenge, but then the list somehow shifted and I mistakenly clicked on the other challenger. So it should have been you, but well, there was a slide. Not sure what's happening here. Let's just grab a pawn. I mean, looks like a free pawn, right? Looks like a free pawn. Maybe not that free. Maybe not a pawn after all. No, actually it's a pawn, right? So we just go back. I'm pretty happy to have pair of bishops now with extra pawn. Maybe someone cancelled their challenge right when you clicked. Absolutely, yeah, that's true. So there is no such thing as a free lunch. Well, yes, but I think it's not that case you're referring to, Thomas. I think that is exactly a free lunch. So let's go. E5. Probably ED5 was also absolutely fine. What I'm trying to do here is to get this position with... What am I doing actually? So I was actually going to play F5. Now it looks like this situation of, you know, not a free lunch. God damn it, I'm so bad at it nowadays. Really, why did I do that? Why did I play E5 and then captured on C4? What the hell? Just a bunch of stupid moves. Yeah. Now I have a bad bishop on C1, limited with own pawns. That's what I have achieved with this E5 move. Of course I can play F5. That's ridiculous. I mean, it was just a very simple position to play. Now I have to invent the wheel again. Maybe F5 should be played, but... let's just prepare it carefully. Prom Knight says E5 and bishop takes C4. As a combination didn't make so much sense. Yes, the idea was to, you know, if D takes C4 happens, then I have a good pawn structure. Sort of knight E4, then knight to D6. But D takes C4 was not forced. That's the main problem with the whole moronic idea of playing E5 and taking on C4. That's indeed, I think, here. Pathetic play. High quality chess, as Fuchs says. Aha. That is probably what I wanted to get. This is kind of help. I think black missed something here. So the point is, of course, if I take several times on E4, then C2 will be captured, but I will play this move first because I want to keep my connected passers on the queen side. Okay, so now what? I think first, rook goes to E2. Preparing rook to E1. Although rook to D1 was a good move. At some point I have to make a room for my king, so probably G3 or G4 and then king G2. That will be a part of the plan for sure. And then at some point I will be just attacking this E4. So I'm a pawn up now, but potentially I may be even 2 pawns up. So I guess it's a good ending for white. Black definitely has some sort of initiative here because of more active pieces for now, but I still believe it will be just temporarily visible, and in a few moves I will diffuse the pressure and we'll get a clearly winning position. F5 is very good now. Well, bishop h6 wins the exchange, but then there is this f4 thing that I underestimated, so... God damn it. Why did I do this? I mean, again, it was absolutely winning position. Now I have some problems. Now there are some problems. God damn it. Just causing problems to myself. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I kind of have to do it. Otherwise, it's not justified. Yeah. Black definitely has compensation now. Maybe I'm overestimating things, but still. It was absolutely unnecessary. It was absolutely safe position. It was absolutely winning position, I would say. Well, this one should be also winning. All right, let's just move our pawns. Let's just move our pawns together. Yeah, I was lucky here. I was really lucky here. Yeah, there is no defense. Okay, so what to say? There were several mistakes from my side here, but then after all, I was very lucky. So here, b5, you just take it several times. I think it's fine. And here, instead of playing e5, well, e5 was not a mistake per se. The mistake was to take on c4 after it. And here, I guess, Fuchs has suggested just to take on d5. Yes, I believe that was a move. But then after e takes d5, it's still a bit awkward, but it's a question of time before white actually gets back to normal. For example, here you can just attack d5 somehow. For instance, you can play queen to f3 and then just exert pressure on d5, because whenever pawn gets to d4, that's great news for the bishop on a2. It becomes really aggressive and active and useful. And at some point you can play f5, bring that bishop to a better position. Yeah, it's still a lot of work to convert the extra material here, or even to get a, you know, optically better position, because for now it doesn't look like a better one, even because black has very active pieces. But still, I mean, that was the right approach in principle, because you have pair of bishops, you want to open up a position. Okay, so that was the first inaccuracy. But after knight to d7, why on earth would you take on c4 if you're a sane person? That's a good question. I mean, yeah, that knight is obviously a good one, and it looks like a better piece compared to that bishop, but still, well, it's a question of time before that bishop gets back to normal life. So instead of doing that, since we have played e5 and forced the knight away from f6, I think the most logical continuation would have been something like rook to d3, right? f4, f5 is the suggestion from Eagle. Well, e5 is hanging, so I'm not sure it's so simple. Just knight c takes e5, then bishop f6 overprotecting that knight, and I mean, maybe there is some tactics like knight takes d5 or something. I don't know, maybe. But I would have tried something more conservative, like rook d3, then rook to h3, just gradually bringing the pieces there before getting to super active things like f5 or something. That would have been my suggestion. And then at the ending, after, I mean, knight e4 was obviously a mistake, because this ending is just bad for black, I guess, long term. Then I made a terrible mistake by, playing this f5. There was a patzerish, instinct of, oh, look, there's bishop h6, rook takes a1. But right after black captured on f5, or it's better to say, right after I played f5, I noticed that there is, not a very pleasant thing happening if black gets this pair of connected pawns. It was too late. So instead of playing f5, of course, I should have kept doing what I've started, literally just attacking e4, say rook to e1, or maybe king to f2, getting closer. So this line looks pretty good to me. For example, just, simplifying the things one by one. If bishop takes e3, of course, you have to take with the rook, but that's not a big deal, right? Then if rook a2, let's say you just get back to e2, then king goes to e3, e4 is under attack, so on and so forth. So after all, we have two connected passers here, and e4 is, doomed, in my opinion. So it will be lost sooner or later. Okay, so, all right, guys. This is it for today. For a comeback after a long break, I think it was not that terrible. Hope you learned something. As I said before, the idea now is to make it regular, at least with one show per week. And with this in mind, I hope to see you in 1 week. Wish you all the best. I'm still accessible on the majority of chess platforms, so you can write me a personal message if you want. I'm no longer accessible on Facebook. I just deleted that bullshit. No longer have that account. So yeah, Twitter, chess platforms, stuff like that. So these are the primary ways now to get in touch with me. Okay. Wish you a great weekend. See you. Bye-bye.